Hi, welcome to Primo's Pearls. I am Amy and we're going to make another wreath. Today is the Rudolph inspired wreath and I think this is really cute. So I was excited to kind of find an idea for this. Now you have purchased the kit and with that kit is included this video showing you how to make it. We're going to walk through it together. And it's just as if you were here in the classroom with me, but you can do it wherever you are. All right, so your kit included a metal 12-inch wreath form, a skein of yarn, a shiny red ornament, and a pair of antlers. Okay, now the antlers, I do want to let you know, they were originally part of a headband. Seriously, the inspiration that I found for this said just pull them off a headband, and I thought, well, that sounds like it's going to be difficult, but it wasn't. They snapped right off. So the edges here are a little bit rough. Just keep that in mind if you are doing this project with children, okay? The other things that you will need, a pair of scissors and glue. Now, for this project, I would recommend a hot glue gun. If you are using it with children, please supervise it and don't let them get burned. I get burned enough as it is. You could also probably use a school glue or a heavy duty craft glue that isn't a glue gun. But so here's my glue gun. I am not sure how well the antlers and the ornament will stay on if you don't use a stronger glue, okay? So to start, we're going to take the paper off our skein of yarn. Now, if you're unfamiliar with yarn, there are always two ends. There's one on the outside, and then there is usually one where you can pull it from the center. You can do either side for this. In projects like knitting, I prefer to pull from the center because as this unravels, it kind of becomes a knot, but that's not a problem. You can do it from wherever. So take your end and take that very first loop, okay? Put the actual loop part at the bottom, so the widest part at the bottom, and just sort of separate your yarn a little bit, and there is a little string. So take your scissors and just cut that string. And what it does is it opens that loop. So now you kind of have a tail to work with. Okay, so this is our starting point. You're going to take this straight piece. Your wreath form, it's kind of hard to see. You can see it in person. It's kind of hard to see on video, but it's not a flat wreath, right? It kind of angles up the way you would expect a wreath to. If you aren't sure which side is the front and which is the back, these little segments are closed, okay? On the front, let me see if I can get it to where I can show you. Yeah, see how they're open and they're like pinched at each end? That's the front, okay? Solid is the back. All right, now because this is a circle, it does not matter where you start, anywhere on the circle. Take your straight tail, and if you need more than one loop, just cut as many as you think you need. But for me, one loop is sufficient. So take your straight tail, your wreath form, and tie it on. You can tie it around all three if you want. I'm just tying it around one. You're not going to notice because it's going to be covered. So just tie a knot. And in fact, I like to do a double knot just to make sure it is secure. All right, so just tie your knot. Now, if you have an extra piece, cut it. An extra piece after the knot, just cut it off. We don't need that piece. All right. Now, this is the point. I'm going to keep videotaping. If you wish to put on music or watch a movie, maybe you just need some Zen time to get in touch with your thoughts. You want some time away from the hustle and bustle of the season, whatever. All right. This is probably the most tedious part, but it can be very mindful. Okay. So you just take your yarn, come through the middle of the wreath, around to the top, pull it, come through the middle, around the front, which I just called the top a minute ago. And see, when you do that, you can see it's just looping around the wreath. And that is literally all we are doing, is just looping around this wreath. Now, I am right-handed, so this is the way that I am going. If you're left-handed and it's easier to go in the opposite direction, or even if you're right-handed, it's easier to go in the opposite direction, totally fine. So again, we just go through, around, and pull it so it's tight. Now, as you work, it's going to get kind of crunched. You can fluff as you go, or you can wait and kind of fluff it all at the end. I promise it's going to work out, okay? So trust the process, because there will be times that you doubt it. Because I do, even as I'm working on it, I doubt it, all right? Now, I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna go through and then show you kind of an important step, all right? So we're gonna just pull. This is also good if you've got any aggression you need to work out, because it kind of calms you down. And nobody's getting hurt, right? So just through and pull. Your yarn is going to get messier as you go, because we're unraveling the skein, right? So just go with it. It's all right. And the yarn might shed a little. It doesn't shed too much when you're not cutting it. So middle, pull, pull, pull. Do one more and then I'm going to show you the part I wanted to show you. Now make sure as you work that you're holding this at an angle comfortable for yourself, because if you're not, you're going to feel it. You don't need that this time of year. You don't need to feel crappy. You're already going to get that with like holiday parties, right? Everybody gathering, you're going to end up with something. All right. So here's what I want to show you. I have essentially one section done. Okay. And you saw it just took a couple minutes, but as you work, I want you to squish it back. Just push it back toward the beginning. Because did you see the difference that made? I had like this section full, and when I pushed it, it went back. Now, this is entirely up to you. The way I'm showing you to do it is to make the most full display. If you don't want it as full and you push and you're like, yeah, that's okay, you can always push it back. But what I want you to know, once you cross these segment dividers, it's much harder to push it back over that. So I would work like segment at a time. Get the first section done. When it's as full as you want it, then keep wrapping, and it's automatically going to go over. And then, okay, so just work like that. So with this, I think it's kind of thin, and you can see the wire metal frame coming through, right? The goal is nobody needs to know that this is wire. When I push it, watch. You don't see it. All right. So we're going to keep wrapping. I apologize when I talk too much. Sometimes I have to take a drink, so bear with me here just a minute. It was also cold outside today, so I put on a sweater. Again, I haven't had a winter yet here in the studio, so I wasn't sure if the building is usually warm or cold, and I have my answer. At least today it is warm. All right, so just once you've pushed it together, take your yarn and again, middle, see how it's falling apart already? It's okay. Just pull. It will get easier to pull this through as we get more yarn on the wreath, okay? All total, I think I have this scheduled for around an hour. There's no right or wrong. There is no rush. There's no time limit to beat. You don't win a prize if you get it done faster. You also don't have to have a crafting bone in your body. I have taught this class, and when I taught the first one in person, people came in and every single person who came in said, I'm not crafty. I said, it's okay, you don't have to be. Like, this is literally something anybody could do. Honestly, my dad, who was a heavy equipment mechanic, could do this, okay? You don't have to be crafty. Take your yarn, see how it's getting all like, yeah, it's going to do that. You need to just go with it. Just recognize that it is not going to stay a nice, neat ball. It might end up on your floor. It's going to roll all over. It's okay. Keep it on your lap. Through the middle. See, there it goes. What did I just say? On the floor? I did say on the floor, and it went on the floor. I jinxed me. All right. Just keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling. Okay. All right. Gather it up as best you can. Shove it through the middle of the wreath and pull. If the yarn starts going to a different part of the wreath than where you want it to, just pull it back. That's all you have to do. Okay. Skiing my workout for the day. And if it gets tangled, because it will start to kind of tangle on itself, just gently work it out. Think of it as like a tangle of necklaces in your jewelry box or Christmas lights, and just have a little patience and work through it. Now, personally, I don't mind untangling yarn, necklaces, Christmas lights, because I untangle yarn a lot as a knitter, right? It doesn't bother me. I can sit down and untangle. When I worked in the jewelry department for a large retailer, I worked in the jewelry department for years, and in fact, even managed to become manager of the department. And we'd get, you know, like sometimes our back stock or new items that came in, chains would get tangled, or just having them in and out of the case all the time, they get tangled. And they just hand them to me, and I'd stand there and untangle them. Okay, so again, I'm showing you, here's what one section looks like. Just to make sure I have it full enough, I'm going to push it. You will reach a point as you go that you think, I don't have enough yarn for this project. And I promise you, you do, because it goes farther than you think. This yarn is very deceptive. So I promise, when you get to about the midway point, you're going to start freaking out. I'm probably going to freak out. We'll be fine. All right. Just keep pulling. This is a good, you know, if you need to get away from family members for a while. What are you doing? I'm working on a craft. You need to leave me alone. It's very involved. Okay. So you scrunch it as much as you want. I mean, you want it full. All right. So I kind of think that's probably good. Now remember, if we hit a spot where something feels a little thin, we can make that be the antlers, or we can make that be the nose part, okay? So once you've reached where your section is full to your liking, just keep wrapping. So here's my little segment, right? Just keep wrapping. And it's gonna wrap right over it. But when you go to push everything back, it's going to kind of give you some resistance, all right? So just keep pulling everything through. If only we could unwind all our problems like this, right? And like I said, if you wish to watch a movie right now and not listen to me ramble, that's totally okay, because this is all we're doing. We're just wrapping. Now it will, as you hold it, so like I'm holding it here because I'm working, it's going to crunch. You can at any time just fluff it. And the way I do that, honestly, is just take my fingers and kind of rake it through it. You could even just do like this, and it kind of fluffs it back out, right? So the yarn, yeah, it's gonna get tangled, but you don't have to fuss on every single loop as you go, unless you want to. And if you want to, then straighten and fluff until your heart's content. But I promise you, overall, it's going to turn out. All right. Just keep going. Of course, I'm doing this backwards to you, which is not the best idea, okay? Keep going. Back to front. And so like here, it wanted to kind of go over the next one. Just push it over there. Everybody get in line. It will be fine. Now it does, so here, see how it's tangling? Just gently pull it. It's gonna work out. Catching my antlers, so let's put those over there. All right, front to back. Pull it through. All that yarn's coming at you. So if you have not seen my videos before, I do not tend to script anything. Life is unscripted, so therefore my videos tend to be unscripted, and you just never know what's going to happen. Filming one yesterday, my mother called in the middle of it, and I couldn't figure out how to stop the video to answer the call, so I called her back. And then I forgot that here in my studio, I don't get cell reception very well. I have a signal booster, but still sometimes it's hard to get it. So then I had to go upstairs and call her back. Just keep, and like at some point, okay, look at this. This is no longer a skein of yarn. This is a pile of yarn. So just take your pile of yarn when it becomes that and push it through. It's okay. All going to work out okay. Now here's kind of a fun fact, maybe. I don't like the Rudolph movie. Never have. Do you know why? Rudolph's nose makes a sound every time it lights up. And to me, I'd rather listen to nails on a chalkboard than that sound. Can't handle it. Can't handle it. Now, like, I do like Bumble. I think Bumble's fun. And like the Misfit toys, I think all of us can identify with that in some way. But that nose lighting up, it is a deal breaker for me. Nope. I've just betrayed my whole generation. Okay, so this is the point where I start thinking, I don't have enough yarn. It's fine. It's fine. Keep rolling. All right, so I've reached another segment. And I'm fluffing and seeing, yeah, how much more do I want? Now, as you work on this, if you're not sure how full it's getting, feel free to like pause the video, go and hang it on your door or your wall, wherever you're planning to hang it, and then like take a couple of steps back and you'll be able to see, you know, kind of get an idea for it. All right. Now, fortunately for all of us, Rudolph's nose on this one does not light up. I did choose shiny ornaments though, because his nose is supposed to be shiny. So I bought a box of red ornaments, and there's all different textures. There's glitter, there's darker reds, there's shiny, there's matte. The Rudolph wreaths will come with a shiny ornament. Like so shiny, like you can see my studio in it, right? On the back side, I can see myself. Shiny red nose. That was non-negotiable. All right. And it was actually kind of hard to find ornaments that were shiny. Everything was matte or glitter. I don't know. I don't want to send glitter to people in the mail unless they've specifically asked for glitter. But, all right, so just keep wrapping. Now, as you wrap, remember I said, make sure it's a comfortable thing for you. So I'm going to keep moving this just so that I'm holding it comfortably, because I don't want anybody, you know, like at the end of the day, just not being able to handle it. Okay. You have probably a lot going on this holiday season, and you need to be present. Not presents, present. You need to be present to enjoy it. And so that's kind of the reasons I kind of like this. It's easy, but it does kind of give you a little bit of peace. And remember, just keep front to back, folding it in. Just tug on it to make sure that you've got it. See, I am panicking again because I'm not gonna have enough yarn. I will. And I think no matter how many times I do this project, there's always gonna be some panic. Okay, I like this really dark brown. I thought it was very nice. And I'm starting to get a knot. So I'm going to just try to gently, most of it will work itself out. If you get a knot that you absolutely cannot separate, and the only option is cutting, then what I'd recommend doing is cutting as close to the knot as you can. You're going to cut that loop so that you have a straight piece, tie it off, and then cut as close to the other side of the knot as you can. Make yourself a straight piece, tie it on, and go again, just like we did at the beginning. So if you need to rewind it to, you know, watch it, absolutely go ahead and do that. Okay. It's just the loops sometimes tend to get caught on themselves. And for the most part, gentle tugging will, you don't want to, I did actually discover you don't want to, because you will break the yarn. I discovered that, I think, yesterday. All right, see, it's working itself out. There's a couple here that are hung up on each other, but we're getting there. It's this one here. And if you have to take a few minutes, just set your wreath down. You're not going to lose your place. I mean, and if it loosens up while you're doing this, just smush it, right? Just smush it. There we go. All right. So now I'm back on track. You can see it did loosen up a little bit. Smush. And keep going. Now I've got this whole big thing of yarn that is kind of all over the place. Now with these being yarn wreaths, you could put them up and use them next year. I also think these are maybe a nice gift, you know, for anybody, but anybody who has allergies to pine, any kind of pine or fir. Yeah, that's me. Growing up, we always had an artificial tree. And my sister had a lot of allergies as a kid. I developed them. Well, I had some, but they got worse as I got older. And we always had an artificial tree. And there was one year, I never wanted a real tree. I did have a real tree actually once, I think, a long time ago. I had one when I was like a young adult. I'm no longer a young adult. I'm a middle-aged adult. But anyway. And I discovered I was allergic to it. And then a few years ago, I thought, well, I could get just a nice wreath and put it on the door, right? Because it's going to be mostly outside. Well, my door, I have like the storm door and the entry door, right? Even with it on the door, there was enough of the scent in the house that I was miserable and I had to get rid of it. So, lesson learned. But I also think this might be nice for anybody who's maybe alone. Anybody who wants something different. I mean, that's the whole point of the Island of Misfit Toys, right? And so this could work. So here we are about halfway done. I don't know why I feel the need to frame my face and show you how far we're coming. And this is the point, right? Where you're questioning, do I have enough yarn? It's also good, you know, you can kind of go back through and look and see. You don't want to see the frame, but just keep going. It's going to be fine. I promise it is going to be fine. So just keep rolling. Did anybody else sing a version of the Rudolph song where when it talks about his nose shone so bright, you'd sing like a light bulb? Anybody else do that? My friends and I did growing up. And now as an adult, so I listen to Christmas music a lot. It calms me. It also kind of helps put me in the mood to be productive with crafting and making things, right? And now as an adult, I will hear Rudolph and, you know, his nose shone so bright, and I'll just go, like a light bulb. There were other additional lyrics that we put into that, and I can't remember them. I only remember, and it was sort of like a call and answer type thing, you know, where somebody'd say something and you'd say it back to them. And I don't remember what other parts we put into it, but I do remember like a light bulb. So actually, my favorite Christmas special from Gen X, there's two. Charlie Brown Christmas. I have been a Peanuts fan even before I was a Beagle mom. After having a Beagle, it hits on a different level. Let me just tell you that. It hits on a different level. But Frosty. Frosty is my favorite animated Christmas movie. I don't know. There's just something about Frosty I just love. I need to figure out how to do a Frosty wreath, because that would be cute. Okay, getting better. See, it's all gonna work out. Trust me and trust the process. Just keep wrapping. Just fluff. It's going to look fine. When it's done, you're going to be like, oh, that's so pretty. All right. Getting closer to losing me. This is how much yarn I have left. Again, don't panic. Keep going. It's kind of a life motto, isn't it? Don't panic. Keep going. This yarn is so incredibly soft. I can see why people have been making blankets out of it. Now, I have never made a blanket. The first time I worked with this yarn at all was doing these wreaths. See, we're getting there. Did you panic? This is the point where you realize, she was right. It is going to work out. She tells herself this every time. Now, see, this is also the Amy you would get if you were here in person in a class. That's just who I am. So you are getting the authentic Amy. And that's one of the reasons I don't script things. So sometimes I struggle finding the correct word, or my thoughts wander. Well, often my thoughts wander. That is just who I am. My report cards always said, talks too much. Yeah. I mean, they said good things, but talks too much was every, yeah. Yep. Okay, that's all we have left. Just keep going. And as you get toward the end, you can, kind of fill it in if you need to. Just go back through and, make some adjustments to your loops. It almost has a look of like a pine cone wreath, especially in the brown, right? Because nothing is perfect. And if we have imperfections, well, we are still putting antlers on, and we are putting a nose on. So that will hide some of it, and nothing is perfect. So it's okay. Sometimes we have to embrace the chaos. And remember, I told you it would get easier to shove the yarn through when you got the, as we got more of it on. It is easier until you lose the end. And now I just have to, there we go. Okay. If you end up not using all of your yarn, that's fine. It does not mean you did anything wrong. As long as you are happy with the way your wreath looks, then it's totally fine. All right, so just bring this through. Okay. There's no tail. Okay. Getting closer. I get to play with glue. Now, as you get to this gap and you're closing the gap, I would, again, if you have the yarn, recommend smushing so that you get it as full all the way around, okay? If you find like shedding pieces from the yarn, just pull it off. It's all right. All right. Now, before we finish off with the yarn, I would absolutely take it and kind of hold it back. I would also run your fingers through it, but you want to make sure that you don't see any space, like you don't want to see the metal wreath form, but you don't want to be able to tell where you stopped and started, right? So I would just make sure that it's full all the way around, and it is, okay? Then what we're going to do, and you can see I actually still have quite a bit of yarn left. So you're going to take from your wreath, go out a few, I don't know, 10, 12, something like that, okay? And do the cut, just like we did before. Now, when you've decided you've got more than you need, let's cut the excess off, okay? And then at your last loop, or possibly your last two, take your loop with the fat part at the bottom. When you separate it, there's like a waist string there, see it? Cut that. All right, so you have a tail. If you want a longer one, then do 2. You could do 3, whatever you need. I'm gonna do 2. All right, so then take your end, wrap it in as much as you can. Now you're gonna want the tail end to be on, like your long straight part to probably come up on the back. All right, so mine does. And then, this is gonna be hard to show you standing up. Work it through, you can either tie it to one of the other loops or like feel between the loops and tie it around your wreath frame, okay? So here you go. You can move the loops for a little bit to get it around your frame if you need to. So here I am, and I'm gonna do, should work, it should be a double knot, should work. Yep, a double knot, pull it tight. And then if you still have a tail, just cut it, just like we did at the beginning, right? All right, I'm gonna turn on my glue gun. All right, so we have our wreath. Now, I did not include a hanging loop for this because the whole wreath is essentially a hanging loop. But I think if you wish to add a hanging loop, just do a piece of ribbon or string, something like that. You could do hang it on a command strip, on a wreath hanger, on a nail. If you have like the wreath hanger, and I don't even have one here, but it's like this, and there's room here, you don't need a ribbon because it'll fit right on it. All right, so here we are. You can go through and fluff. This is the time to look and see if there are any areas that are very obviously flat, then maybe we want to make those part of our nose and antlers. Give me just a moment. Allergies. All right. I'm going to try to tilt the camera so that we can kind of get a feel for this, okay? So we have our antlers. If they're bent, just kind of bend them back, all right? And we have our nose. I'm not sure how much of this we're seeing. All right, it looks like we are. Okay, so the first thing I would do. Okay, so we have our yarn wreath, and it's time to turn this brown wreath into Rudolph. So we have the shiny red ornament and our antlers. Okay. They're felt, so, you know, they're going to kind of flop, but I think it'll work out fine on the wreath. All right. This is the point where we are going to need the hot glue gun. So if you are working with a child, please supervise them. All right. Because I burned myself on my hot glue gun and it's, you know, it can be painful. All right. I would do the nose first because basically that's going to set the center. So anywhere, because it's a circle, anywhere on this circle, we're going to take the nose. I am actually going to pull off the little top of the ornament because I think it will glue better like this, and it just pops off. If you want to keep it on, that's fine. If you're keeping it on, then glue, I would glue around the base of it. Since I'm taking it off, I'm going to basically glue around this like kind of nozzle, right? So the base, but also the nozzle, because I want it to stick. I don't want it falling off my door, right? So we're coming in with the hot glue gun. Give it a good coat. All right, then we're going to take it and you're going to actually glue it to several yarn loops. So we're going to go in. I have it glued and just kind of hold it. Maybe push some of the loops around it and let that glue adhere. So we're going to wait just a minute. I have a setup and I'm still trying to do where I can flip my phone to show you on the table, but the phone fell out and it didn't work. So we're going to do it this way. So just hold it for a minute. Okay. There you are. It's on there. I mean, it's not attached to the frame, but it is attached to the yarn. And I, just kind of scrunch the yarn pieces around it and it will adhere. And then, like I said, just hold it. All right. So now that we have the nose, this is our center. The antlers are going to go up here. If you are a perfectionist or if you're very precise, you could absolutely get a measuring tape and measure out the distance and set them equally. Honestly, I'm going to eyeball it. So I'm sorry if that gives you the ick. But I am going to eyeball it. And I want my antlers to pop up from the back, right? I do not want to glue them to the front. You could, if you want, glue them into the middle, but I'm going to just glue them to the back. So I have my yarn wreath here in front of me. Your antlers should go so that the pointy rounded parts are away from each other, okay? Other than that, It doesn't matter how they go. Actually, whatever works best for you. So I'm going to take them and I'm going to just kind of line them up where I think I want them. Once I'm happy with that, I'm coming back with the hot glue. Take the bottom of your antler and just however much you think you're going to want to put and go across the bottom. Okay. And once again, I am securing it to the yarn. So I'm going to put it on the yarn and I'm going to hold it and not scream as the glue burns my fingertips. So I'm just going to hold it. Now, when working with hot glue, you end up getting stringies, right? So just pull the stringies off. I dislike the stringies very much, but they'll just pull right off. So I'm just going to hold this. And again, I have just adhered it to the loops of the yarn. Okay, I think that's got it. Yep. And just to show you what it looks like, there we are. Okay, on the back. So from the front, it looks like this. Now, in nature, deer's antlers are not always symmetrical. So if yours end up a little wonky, it's okay. I don't want you to feel badly if it does, unless that is something that's really going to bother you. And if that's the case, then maybe use a measuring tape just to make sure everything's all right. I'm going to take my second antler and the same thing. And again, remember, I want the pointy parts away from the other. They should go away from each other. The flat sides should be facing each other. So I'm just going to do the same. My glue gun, I'm just going to apply some glue. Try to set my glue gun down. So my glue gun has, it's like a rechargeable, and it has like a spot to catch as it drips, but that means I have to get it turned around correctly because the recharging port is on one side and the drip spout is on the other. So I have to turn it around, but yet still work while the glue is hot for my project and not get glue all over everything else as I'm trying to do it. So I'm just holding the second one in place, you know, like a minute or so. I mean, just, you really want it to bond. If when you move your fingers away, you feel that it needs more adhesive, put more glue on and hold it again. So that's not a problem. If I were shipping these made, I'd be a little bit more concerned. But since you are making them at your home, business, wherever you are, I think they will be fine. All right. So, and in fact, as she says that, this one wants to flap. So I'm going to come in with my glue gun and just hit it again. Just to firm it up a little bit. Okay. Then you can just kind of go through with your fingers, pull the stringies off. See the stringies? Pull the hot glue stringies off. They come off pretty easily. They're just annoying. It's like little spider webs, but they're just annoying, okay? And so we just made a Rudolph inspired wreath. How cute is that? Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for joining me for this project. I hope you had as much fun as I did. I hope to see you back in the future for more projects. Thank you. Bye-bye.